Bienvenidos and welcome back to Puro Pinche Gol, the place where we discuss all things usmnt y la selección mexicana. My name is Adrian. I'm joined once again by my co-host and Tocayo, Adrian. Adrian, how you doing, man?
Hey, what's up, dude? I'm doing all right. I'm glad to be here with you again.
Awesome, man. Yeah, glad to have you. Today we will be discussing Jesse Marsch in full here. What has been transpiring over there at Leeds, his not so good record. After after a 2-1 loss here this weekend to Aston Villa, where does he stand? What do fans think? Can he last to the end of the season at Leeds? We'll be going in depth with him and not with him, about him. I wish one day we'll have him on. One day we'll have him on here talking with us.
Soon, dude. Soon.
Yeah, man. Think big, man. Also, we're going to be discussing Pulisic at Chelsea. We know Chelsea has just signed the Ukrainian from Shakhtar Donetsk, Mykhailo Mudryk. Can't say his name right, but it's another winger and more competition for Pulisic there and for all the players there at Chelsea. So we'll be discussing, Pulisic, what his future holds, and will he last at Chelsea to the end of the season? But if you haven't so already, please be sure to check out our previous episode where we went over all the problems, that we think with Liga MX, with La Federación Mexicana, and how, they affect the national team and youth player development in Mexico. You won't want to miss it. Adrian just went off. He went unhinged, uncensored in that episode. So go check it out.
I do want to say that we might have sort of inadvertently created the PPG curse because we were dissing. Well, I was dissing Alexis Vega, and that, a couple of days later he got injured, dude. I wish him well. I hope he gets a speedy recovery. But yeah.
I guess we can't be dissing anybody anymore, man. Gotta be careful who we diss.
I know.
Before we get into it, Adrian, where can people find us?
Sure, if they want to see our pretty faces, man, they can always find us on YouTube as Puro Pinche Gol. Don't forget to subscribe, smash the like button, and turn on the notifications. If they're just fine with listening to our pretty voices, they can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any other podcast subscription they are a subscriber on.
Cool. Awesome. Well, let's jump right into the first topic here, Pulisic at Chelsea. So again, Chelsea just signed for a record 70 million euros plus 30 additional bonus, add-ons.
Crazy numbers, man.
I know, for a 22-year-old Shakhtar Donetsk winger, Mudryk. So with Mudryk now at Chelsea, just to list out who they have and, their forward/winger position. They have Mudryk, they have Hakim Ziyech, they have Raheem Sterling, they have Mason Mount, they have Kai Havertz, they have Pulisic, they have Joao Felix, they have David Fofana, which they also just signed. They have Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, and they have Armando Broja, who's in injury. Granted, a lot of these players, Broja, Pulisic, are injured. Felix is suspended. But still, man, you just got to feel for Pulisic. I mean, he's got huge competition now at Chelsea.
He cannot catch a break, dude. He just cannot. There's no. I guess in throughout his entire history with CFC, he just cannot catch a break. Whether if it's an injury, whether if it's bringing in more people. Every single time that we think that he's consolidating onto the spot and getting more game time and playing better, something like this happens.
Yeah, talking after the World Cup, he had a great World Cup, and he comes back in and he gets himself right in the starting lineup for 3 games. Doesn't score, doesn't get an assist, but he plays well. He plays as well as anybody out there on that team. Granted, that's not saying a lot for Chelsea this season, currently 10th. But, he I think for those 3 games after the World Cup, he was probably our Chelsea's best forward, or midfield forward attacking option. Kai Havertz hasn't really shown a lot. Mason Mount, he runs a lot. He's always tracking back, but he hasn't been the Mason Mount we know here this past season. Sterling, I think he was nursing an injury as well. Hakim Ziyech is in an even worse position with Chelsea. Somebody who had an amazing World Cup, and no matter what he does, he can't find a starting lineup. I think the only reason he started this weekend was because of the injuries to the
Hmm.
players there. But yeah, I mean, Pulisic comes back from the World Cup, plays well, decent, and then man gets an injury, and he's going to be out for a couple months. I think the Potter said he's out for at least 2 months. Maybe he'll be back
Yeah,
before then. Maybe it might be a little bit more or less.
and
Um,
from what I've been reading so far is that it looks like Potter likes him. He
yeah,
likes Christian Pulisic, and he would like to have him available more often. Just so on the recent reports that are linking or were linking Christian Pulisic out of Chelsea with a potential move during this winter break. Uh, Potter just came back and said like, no, we're not gonna sell Christian Pulisic to anyone. Um, but I don't really know if that comes from him or that comes from Todd Boehly trying to keep the U.S. star with CFC so they can still be relevant with the U.S. market. But hey, I mean I don't know. He can just be being polite because he's an injured player and he doesn't want to diss him, right?
yeah, it could be plenty of things. I don't think it's Todd Bowley trying to keep an American player. I think Todd Bowley he's he's a winning guy. He'll win at whatever costs. He doesn't really care about that. He'll throw Pulisic under a bus if he has to, I think, and buy, splurge the cash to buy somebody else. I think it's what you said, being Potter, being a nice guy, and just being why would I say something bad about one of my players right now? Why would I
Yeah,
say,
and
yeah,
no,
I'm gonna sell him?
I totally agree, and I think it's also a situation of if they want to offload him, right?
Right.
He has to talk good about him and prep him up for the next
Yeah.
for the next suitor, for sure.
Right. Yeah. You're not gonna say,
And
man, this guy sucks, or this guy plays horrible in practice.
this new signing that they just brought in, Mudryk, I I don't know why Chelsea has been going on a spending spree with wingers. Like it's not like we don't. It's not like Chelsea doesn't have enough wingers, right? I get it that
Right.
they're all injured, but 100 million mark for a guy that has 12 goals and 17 assists on 44 games uh, at the Ukrainian league.
Yeah.
I'm
I
pretty sure
mean,
they could have found something better, man.
yeah, you could have gotten yourself a proven, I don't know, 25, 27-year-old guy that's been doing it well in the Premier League for half that cost. I don't know where
Hell yeah.
I don't know how where some of these signings are coming from. They're like I said before, Todd Bowley is probably playing Football Manager with all his money. But
He is.
regardless, I can't talk much about Mudryk. I haven't. I
Mhm.
won't lie and say that I watched the Ukrainian league much. So from research that I've done, he seems to be one of the best upcoming prospects from that league and from Shakhtar. Shakhtar, we know back in the 2000s, early 2010s, they were always a Champions League staple. So they're a big club,
Yeah. Hmm.
one of the well-known clubs in Europe. But regardless, yeah, 100 million just seems like a lot for him. And I don't know.
It's adding more competition to Christian Pulisic. Like I think at this point in time, the season is not going well. I know they want to end on on a high note, but why don't just use academy players and then make sure that Pulisic comes back sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I agree. No, you know how we talked about these big teams already. They like the ones we talked about in Mexico. The big teams have the pressure to they need to win
Yeah,
regardless. Even if it's halfway through the tournament, they're 10th in the league. They're not going to give academy players much chance because they're still trying to. It's that pressure, right? If you're Graham Potter, you're going to be
yeah,
like, I can give my young guys the chance, but at the same time, if I do, my job's on the line. So, yeah, you kind of feel for Pulisic just because yeah, like I said, they didn't need another winger. What they needed is definitely was maybe defensive players,
yeah.
maybe somebody to replace Kante and Jorginho, who are most likely leaving this summer.
Hmm.
So yeah, I don't think they needed more forwards. But anyway, we're not here to talk too much in depth about Chelsea. We're mainly focusing on Pulisic here. Um,
Yeah.
Pulisic has had his spells of up and down with Chelsea. He's had that amazing spell where people saw what he can be and that he can play at
Mhm.
this league after COVID during the lockdown when the no fans were allowed. He had an amazing record. He was scoring nonstop. He was assisting nonstop. And then, at the end, when he could have capped it all off with the FA Cup trophy, the trophy that he still hasn't won, by the way, with Chelsea, he gets injured in the final against Arsenal, which they also ultimately lose. After he had an amazing breakaway, an amazing chance to put Chelsea in the lead, but he got injured. And since then, I haven't seen Pulisic's speed really return.
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah,
he's
I agree.
afraid of, if I keep running like I used to, I'll probably tear that. I think it was his I don't think it was the ACL. It was some other hamstring, his hamstring. Um, and so he maybe doesn't want to put too much pressure on his hamstring anymore. But I don't see that speed too much anymore. But other than that, he's had a couple other instances where he's been solid. He's had some good performances in the Champions League when they won the Champions League semifinal goal against Real Madrid, and amongst other solid performances in that Champions League. And again, in the Premier League, he's had his moments where he has a run of 2 or 3, 4 games where he maybe scores or assists. And I'm not saying scoring and assisting every game is what defines a player as good or bad. You could have a game where you don't score, you don't assist, but you're taking your man on, you're creating space, you're making challenges and drawing fouls, which is something he definitely does well. He's one of the most fouled players in the EPL, um, and a lot of Chelsea's goals have came from fouls drawn in or around
Yeah,
the box. Um, so, if I were to rate his performance at Chelsea to date, I'd maybe give it a 6 out of 10. Not fantastic, but not crap, not a 2, not a
yeah.
3. Just a
Siempre gloria.
okay. Yeah.
Hmm.
An okay career at Chelsea, with marked by some incredible highs, winning the Champions League, scoring in the Champions League semifinals against Real Madrid, almost scoring in the Champions League final against City that they ultimately won,
Hmm.
Chelsea. But he's also had some incredible lows, right? Just injury plagued seasons and career at Chelsea that has yet to allow him to reach his potential for sure.
Yeah. So I mean, I was looking at his injury record since he joined Chelsea back in 2019. He has had, let me tell you how many uh reported, and I'm not gonna discuss the ones that are like due to illness. So we got
Sure.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 injuries since he joined Chelsea back in 2019. The one with the most, I guess, recovery time was a tear in the abductor muscle between
Mm-hmm.
January 2020 and June 2020, which he lost 12 games. But September of 2021, he lost 12 games because of an ankle injury, uh, and it's been 10 days now with his knee injury. So it looks like he gets injured every single season, man. Like at least he has one injury per season right now, and he has an average of at least losing maybe like 6 games
Yeah.
due to injury. So I don't know if it's because of the way that he's built or if he needs to strengthen some other areas of his body. But I do agree with you. Like I've seen him be more conservative with the amount of dynamism that he offers on the field, because I'm pretty sure he doesn't want to get injured, since he looks like he has, or he's prone to like muscle injuries because of that
Mm-hmm.
speed that he has. Doing
Mm-hmm.
quick changes of velocity. That also put him on a position to be prone to this kind of injuries. But yeah, it's just kind of, it's, I don't know if it's disappointing because it's not necessarily he's not
His
trying to get
fault, right?
injured. Exactly,
Yeah.
he's not trying to get cited and not play or get benched. Um, but I don't know if he just hasn't found like a silver bullet to either change his pace or just change his position and be a different player that does not require to be more that dynamic on the field.
Yeah. Hopefully I see him making a transition from like a winger, a left winger, which is his preferred position, where you need speed. As you get older, you lose that speed, and as you get
Hmm.
ridden through injuries, you lose that speed. Maybe he plays as number 10 for Chelsea. Well, his number is number 10 for Chelsea and for the US. Maybe be that central role, the guy that plays
Yeah.
behind the forward. where you don't necessarily need all that speed in long, sprints, but you just need that bursts here or there for turning. Maybe adapt your game to that. But yeah, man, it's unfortunate for him because it like you said, it's not him, it's not his fault that he obviously wants to be out there performing, but yeah, just injuries have really plagued him, and not just him. Sterling is out for Chelsea, and quite a few players are out for Chelsea. So much so that they are investigating their doctors and their medical staff on that team now,
Ooh.
doing an internal investigation just to make sure, what are we doing wrong? Just like Borussia Dortmund did a year or two ago with all the injuries that they also had. And it doesn't help that he comes probably from Borussia Dortmund, where he had a
Yeah,
lot of injuries
me
too with their medical
too.
staff.
Mhm.
So, yeah, so we'll see if they're able to maybe find a pattern that they can probably perhaps fix or implement there that can help their players stay more injury free. Um, one last thing before we leave the Pulisic topic. If he does leave Chelsea, either I don't think he'll leave this winter now. Especially he's injured now. Who's going to want to buy an injured player? But if he
True.
leaves Chelsea in the summer, there's been talks from Newcastle. There's been talks from him going back to BVB, Borussia Dortmund. There's been talks with Bayern Munich. Um, Rumors, sorry, not really talks, but rumors. Um, where do you see him fitting in? Do you like him maybe going to Newcastle?
Yeah, I think I think he will be up for a challenge like Newcastle, where they just have a huge influx of money, and I think he's he's not that big of a player to have like an ego issue if he joins a team like
Hmm.
Newcastle, because I'm pretty sure they're going to be buying a lot of players in the next
Right.
summer window. But I think he'll fit in for sure, and I think it would also be a good opportunity for him to start thinking of how do I make my career last longer on the EPL, right? Because I don't
Yeah.
think he will be a good fit for the likes of La Liga or Serie A, just because of his physical abilities. La
Yeah.
Liga is not a very fast paced league. Serie A, well, needless Serie A is not as fast as EPL. But yeah, I think Newcastle will be a good move. For some reason, the players at London teams pretty much stay in London, so I
Hmm.
wouldn't be surprised if he goes to like the likes of Aston Villa or maybe Fulham. Um, but yeah, if Newcastle seems to be like the next stop for him, I think it will be okay, because if everything goes well and they make the purchases that they need, they're gonna be playing Champions League, which is always nice to have. And they're gonna be top of the league. They're gonna be playing for one of the four top positions on the EPL. So yeah, I think it will be a good move for Newcastle. No, well, I guess for both Newcastle and Christian Pulisic. I think he will go in.
Yeah.
The thing with EPL though is that it doesn't really matter which team you go, unless it's like a very uh, you know unpopular team like Crystal Palace, or even like, I don't know, maybe Aston Villa, uh, West Brom, Brighton Albion, right? Those teams, I don't
Hmm.
think they had that much pressure from the fans or from the media. I like to think that Newcastle might like has been in that position for the last couple of years, but until today, they have a lot of attention from the new owners and all that stuff. I think it will be good for Pulisic to show, to go to a different team where maybe the pressure it's not yet there. It's definitely building up, but he might benefit from going to a place where uh, his his uh his performance might not be under a lot of scrutiny from both
Hmm.
fans and the management team.
Yeah, because here at Chelsea, anytime he messes up, there's countless tweets or countless, Pulisic has to go, whatever. It might be due because partly he's an American player and that stigma with it, or
Yeah.
just because he's been there for so long and hasn't really reached his potential that we know is there. But yeah, I agree. Definitely Newcastle's probably my favorite option for him if he does leave. I hope he doesn't leave. I hope he reaches his potential with Chelsea, but with
Mhm.
the 10 plus forwards they have now, it's kind of hard to see that happening.
It's not gonna be something easy to
Right.
come by.
But I agree with what you said that the smaller teams really they have the pressure of having to stay up.
Hmm.
But which is its own pressure, but they don't have that media pressure from every
Exactly.
move that you make is scrutinized. Every tweet you like is scrutinized.
Exactly. So it doesn't really
Yeah,
matter if Brighton, ends 12th on the table, right? He's like, all right,
right.
we know that it was
That was
very difficult
expected.
for us. Exactly.
All
So
right. You're like, oh,
they
okay,
may,
cool. Another season we survived. Nice. Uh,
yes, pretty much.
but all right, cool. Well, that's our kind of review on what Pulisic's situation is currently in Chelsea right now. Hopefully, he does come back sooner rather than later and is able to kind of wrap up the season there at the
Yeah.
end with a couple starts, a couple goals to his name, because we know he definitely can. Yeah, fingers crossed. We definitely can live to that potential. We've seen it before countless times. It's just that injuries, man, have been a bitch to him.
Yeah.
Um,
He needs to make a change.
yep, for sure. Okay, so our next topic here for today is Jesse Marsch. Is he running out of time at Leeds? Before we really get into it, Adrian, I want to kind of go through with his record this year. His season started off well, 2-1 win with over Wolves, 2-2 draw with Southampton, 3-0 win over Chelsea,
Yeah,
then a
it was crazy.
3-1 win over Barnsley in the EFL Cup. And then you see, man, it just go down from there. 1-0 loss to Brighton, 1-1 draw to Everton, 5-2 loss to Brentford, 0-0 draw to Villa, 2-1 loss to Palace, 0-1 loss to Arsenal, 2-0 loss to Leicester, 3-2 loss to Fulham. Then he wins a couple back-to-back, 2-1 win over Liverpool. How is he beating Chelsea and
Wow.
Liverpool but losing to
Exactly.
Aston Villa and Palace?
Everton, man.
Yeah. 4-3 win against Bournemouth, 1-0 loss to Wolves in the EFL Cup. 4-3 loss to Tottenham, 1-3 loss to Man City, and then he has a couple draws, 0-0 to Newcastle, 0-0 to West Ham, and then he draws 2-2 to Cardiff last week in the FA Cup, so that FA Cup third round fixture is going to be replayed this upcoming week. And the most recent game is a 2-1 loss to Aston Villa, which I think really summarizes his tenure as coach. Um, he's had some big moments where he beats big teams this season. Chelsea, Liverpool last season. I think he beat United, um, and maybe tied City. But his overall record this season is 4 wins, 5 draws, 9 L's in the Premier League. Um, Bielsa was fired last season when Marsch came in to replace him at a similar position, close to the relegation zone. And we haven't really seen Leeds improve much under Marsch. They're
Yeah.
stagnant. They're in the same place they were at with Bielsa's last season.
Hmm.
He's 7 matches right now without a win, and it's just not looking good for him at Leeds. There is it.
Well, I mean, if you look at the record, right, it's not like he's losing by a huge difference. I mean, besides the Brentford score, which he lost 5-2, all of the rest of them are essentially like 1-0 or a difference of one goal lost. Um, so I don't really know if it's a situation of him just not still going through the team not adapting to what he wants to play, or if it's just coming to the conclusion that Jesse March, you're not ready for EPL.
Yeah. I mean, he's coached some big teams, Leipzig and Salzburg. So his credentials are there, but like you said, those matches he's lost a few matches, more than a few matches where where Leeds deserved at least a draw or a win. Um, Yesterday, or I think it was yesterday. Yesterday's match against Aston Villa, where they lost 2-1.
Hmm.
Easily they could have won, but they deserved at least a draw. But unlucky. 0-0 draw to West Ham. They were the better team. They lost. They tied 0-0. Couldn't find the back of the net. 0-0 draw against Newcastle. Newcastle is great this year. They're third in the league, but they were pretty much on par that whole match. Anybody could have won the match, but a
Yeah.
draw there again. 4-3 loss to Tottenham. You can't receive 4-3s and expect to win. So I mean, that's a loss there.
Yeah.
But again, a 3-2 loss to Fulham earlier in the year. They could have got a draw there. I watched that game. They lost 1-0 to Arsenal. They played really well against Arsenal, but unfortunate to get the loss. Deserved a draw.
Unlucky.
Yeah,
Crystal
drew
Palace
earlier
2-1.
in they against Palace 2-1. They could have easily got a draw or a win in that one. Lost to Brighton. It's just a story of unluckiness at this point. he can't find the back of the net, and if you can't find the back of the net, you're not going to win, and if you receive goals, you're not going to win. So at one point, where does it become, oh, he was unlucky? No, or it's because of his managerial tactics. We might be at the point where you start saying, it's not luck anymore, man. It's your tactics.
Well, he's running out of time. That's for sure. I'll be surprised if he loses the next two games and he ends the season as a coach. I do agree with you, and that's what I was trying to hint at with my comment earlier or a couple of seconds ago. Was is this a situation of him not having the players that he needs, or he's still trying to get used to it? Because I understand that, especially if you're like a brand new coach on EPL, whatever you did on your previous job is not going to work here, man. Like you have
Yep.
to throw everything, pretty much everything out of the window and restart your career because it's just a different level of game, right?
Hmm.
So that's why I was wondering if is it his management style, or that is not fitting the league, or is he just very reluctant to look at his squad and make the right calls to say, hey, I need these kind of players if my method or my style is gonna uh, settle down here at Leeds United. So, I mean, I'm looking at the stats of these just recent game. It's not like they're not attacking, dude. They have 16 shots, 4 on target. Possession is not too bad, 46% against 54 from Aston Villa. They do have decent amount of passes. Their accuracy of passes is not too good, 69%. They have a lot of fouls too, and they had 11 corners. Man, you have 11 corners on a game. That's a lot of corners for your team, and you have yet to score. One goal. I don't know if
Yep.
the goal came from a set piece or if it was a free scoring goal. Do you know?
I don't recall. I wasn't watching that game at the time. I don't
Gotcha.
know.
But it just seems to me like it isn't as well, at least based on these numbers, right? And if I go back to the previous game, with Cardiff City, same
Hmm.
situation. You had 26 shots, 5 on target. They won the possession with 74%, and you had 9 corners. So they're
Yeah,
attacking.
they are attacking. That's why a lot of people say, he's just unlucky because the ball doesn't go in. But to answer your question real quick, it was an open play goal. It wasn't a free kick or anything. Um, so to your point, man, they're attacking, but they can make goals. They just signed for a club record transfer fee. Um, Giorgino Rutter from from Hoffenheim. He is listed by Leeds as a attacker,
Hmm.
but his numbers don't really back up an attacker. More of a forward, maybe. A wing, or plays right behind the number 9. It'll be interesting to see where he plays. He might be playing behind Rodrigo. But he has 11 goals and 57 appearances for Hoffenheim, and then before that, he played 4 times for Rennes and didn't score a goal. So his numbers aren't too anything to get impressed by. But
He's a record signing.
he's their record signing, yeah.
Come on.
And but yeah, I mean they're looking for him to come rejuvenate their front line and maybe get him some goals, or at least make some plays that lead to goals for sure. Um, an interesting stat here about Leeds: 2 points separate 14th place, which is Leeds, from
Mhm.
20th place, which is Southampton. So if
Ooh,
Southampton wins, they'll jump to 14th place, assuming other results, go their way.
of course.
It's just crazy. Leeds has a game in hand, so if they win that game in hand, they can move up to what is it, 20 points, which will see them just go up a spot. So it's really, really competitive down there at the bottom, and it's another place he doesn't want to be at. You think 14th
Yeah.
place, you're safe, but no, he's fighting for relegation here to stay up. Um,
Hmm.
you know, I
He needs to
I
be
personally
careful.
feel, yeah, he has a game this Wednesday against Cardiff, the replay from the FA Cup third round. I think, man, if he doesn't win this game, he might be sacked, just
I mean,
because what
yeah.
else is there to play for at this point?
Mhm.
They're just trying to play for, get far in the FA Cup, maybe win the FA Cup. If he wins the FA Cup this year, he'll be a hero, because I mean that's a big trophy. But
It is a big
that's all
trophy.
they're playing for right now, and obviously to stay up. But
Yeah, not getting to the relegation, right? I mean,
yeah,
and the other thing that I want to say is Cardiff City part of the EPL right now, or is it on the Championship? Because if I
they're in the
mean,
championship.
if you lose against a freaking championship side, not that championship sides are not good, but you know,
Right.
if you lose against the a lower a lower league team, it
You
just
probably
says
deserve
a
to
lot,
be
man.
sacked.
Yeah, exactly. You gotta
And
get sacked, man. Come on, dude.
yeah,
Well, I mean, he needs to tread lightly, dude. He needs to really understand what are going to be his next steps. I wonder if this new Jorginho Rutter guy was, his decision to bring, or if it was this is the only player that you have available, and you need to make it work. Because that's the other thing is, I know that he's been here since the summer. I don't know how many signings he actually made, or if there was if the team had a lot of restructuring, so that can also potentially add to the situation of him maybe not finding himself with the current squad that he has and giving him the benefit of the doubt, right? But it looks like everything is pointing to uh, his style not fitting the league. Um, because yeah, I don't really know. Like he needs to tread lightly, and just for the reason of the fans being angry at him, they're getting desperate.
yeah.
I was reading some reports saying that even on this last game, they were chanting for him to get sacked. He definitely needs to win against Cardiff City. That's gonna give him a quick lifeline, but he needs to make some points on the next three games for sure. Because just like yourself, I don't think he's gonna make it out if he loses two out of the three next games.
And I think there must win three next games. If we look at his next five Premier League games: Brentford, Nottingham Forest, Manchester United, Everton, and Southampton. If he wins against Cardiff and if he wins against Brentford and Nottingham Forest, I think that'll buy him at least 2 to 3 months.
Yeah,
Because he'll lose to Manchester United most likely. Manchester United is playing amazing right now. Everton could be a draw or a loss, and he should beat Southampton. They're at the bottom of the table, but you never
he
know.
needs to because
Yeah, he
he
needs
said
to.
they are a right direct relegation
Yeah,
competitor. Sorry, so he
yep,
needs to win that game.
for sure. One thing you pointed out that I was kind of interested by, kind of want to touch. You mentioned his style not matching maybe the players he has or the league.
Hmm.
That's when you, as a good coach, you have to modify your style to match who you have, playing for you. If your style isn't working, you got to say, "Shit, man. Well, something's got to change. I can't go. I'm not at Manchester City or PSG, Real Madrid, where I could go buy myself who play Football
That
Manager,
is true.
right?
Uh-huh.
I have to
Mhm.
play with what I got and make my adjustments accordingly to make the best 11, perform at their peak and get me results." So he definitely needs to start getting results, and if he doesn't, I'm afraid that another fellow American there in the EPL will be without a job.
So, Adrian, my brother in Christ, if everything goes south with Marsh and he gets sacked, do you think he should be in consideration for the USMNT gig?
I think he will be just because of his record or not his record, but his resume, right? Because he probably has a losing record in Europe, but because of his resume in Europe with Leipzig, Leeds, and who was it? Salzburg. He's probably the only American with that resume. Um, and an American with a resume in Europe, with a good, decent resume in Europe, who's also knows about the MLS. You see it as a win-win. He knows both sides of the American Federation. Um, but I wouldn't want to see him as coach there. I think he still has to prove himself in Europe. I'd like him to see him succeed in Europe, just because it'll open more doors to more American coaches in Europe in the future.
Yeah,
There hasn't
I
been
agree.
any real successful one. It's kind of like with Mexico, the only guy you got out there is Vasco Aguirre, right? And
Yeah, Nacho Ambriz tried, but he sucked, dude. He went to
yeah,
La Liga
so
too. And he sucked ass, dude.
it's like
Uh,
for Mexico or for the U.S., you're not going to get more opportunity. Your coaches aren't going to get more opportunities out there if you don't have a good record. So I hope he stays out there, and I hope he survives at Leeds and turns it around for sure, and leads to more Americans out there. And I personally wouldn't want to see him as the coach for the U.S. I think it's time to maybe get a extranjero, a foreigner, and see how they're able to implement their tactics. But again, that's for another video. Um, well, Adrian, thank you once again, man, for joining us here on Puro Pinche Gol as my co-host. It's always a pleasure to have you on, man. And before we go, where can our listeners find us, man?
Sure, they can find us at Puro Pinche Gol on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, as I said, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts or any other podcast service they are subscriber on. Don't forget to like us, hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications on YouTube because we post there constantly.
Yep. Well, man, sounds good. I'd like to pick your brain on these topics. So it was fun. And I guess I'll see you in the next one, brother.
Take it easy, my friend.
See you, man.
Dose.